Hey guys, welcome to another edition of the Five Star Zone. I am your host, Rico Beer. College football is soon to be here. We are less than a month away before the games get started in the Big Ten. The excitement is high. You got Ohio State, you got Oregon, you got Penn State, you got Michigan. They're in those top 10 teams in the preseason poll that just came out. We'll get to that in another show. But right now, I do want to focus on some news that came out over the weekend while I was on vacation. And that is the NCAA. It looks like the NCAA is finally going to come down and start the process with Counter Stallions in Michigan and the whole fiasco that took place for over the last few years in Ann Arbor with the University of Michigan. And for those you don't know, Counter Stallions was some type of an assistant. The exact title, I don't know. I just know he had access to a lot of things. This man came up allegedly with sign stealing, and not just sign stealing, because people get caught up into that. Okay, let's face it. So long as there's TVs out there and you can watch game footage, you can pick up tendencies and you can steal the different signs. It was how he did it. He had an intricate circuit with using other people and interns of going to prospective games and being there on the sideline or being in the stands and stealing the information that way. That is not allowed. Now, if you want to sit there and watch the film and you want to pick up the tendencies, that is. So I know a lot of people, especially Michigan fans, are like, well, everybody steals signs. Everybody doesn't do it the way that Michigan did it over the last few years. And you can see that there was a direct correlation with him being on that staff and the methods that he used and Michigan winning games. And you could see examples where all of a sudden Michigan just seemed to always knew the right play to call and the right defense or right offense to be in when they were playing a team. It makes you question other games and you're like, okay, well, you heard the rumors that TCU found out about Michigan and how they had scouted them, and TCU came up with a fake signs and they came up with new ones that Michigan didn't know about, and they beat Michigan in that playoff game. It makes you wonder why Jay Johnson ran the hurry up offense when Michigan State played them in 2021. There was something that Michigan State had never done before, and they really only did it against Michigan in that game. That was a game that K9 went off. They didn't allow Michigan to set the defense, and they made sure that they kept them off balance. Well, now it looks like the NCAA is finally cracking down, and they're about to level the penalties. Now, we don't know exactly what's going to happen, but it looks like to be several level 1 penalties. That is not good for those who are keeping score. It is not good. Level 1 penalties on Harbaugh, on Counter Stallions, on Denard Robinson, on Chris Partridge. And Sharon Moore, the acting coach right now for the University of Michigan, is getting hit with some level 2 penalties. But we need to monitor that because that could change to level 1 because he would be a repeat offender. Because remember, Moore was suspended last season in those early games. When Harbaugh was suspended for those first 3 games, Moore was also suspended as well, which means he is now a repeat offender. That's why it was important when he did get suspended that he was hoping that this wouldn't end up happening, because now, yes, he falls on the repeat offender list. And if that's the case, then he could be bumped up to level 1 status as well. Now, what does all this mean? We don't know. What will probably happen is this. Michigan will definitely get hit with a fine. I think Michigan is willing to get hit with a fine. I think Michigan will hope that that's all they do is to get hit with a fine and nothing else. Now, the rest, well, that's going to be up to the NCAA. And remember, Michigan has 90 days to appeal whatever the NCAA has to say. NCAA could take away the national title and could take away victories. I've never been a big fan of that because it's like you're unless you have the neuralizer from Men in Black. We all saw what happened. We all saw that Michigan won the title. So to take it away from them, I can't forget that. Now, will you respect it? Probably Michigan fans will, but a lot of people outside the University of Michigan and the Big Ten and the nation will never respect that title because it will always be tainted to them. Michigan fans don't care. You got the natty, you got the ring, you got the hat, you got the t-shirt, and you don't give a damn what anybody like me or anybody else has to say about it. The other thing that could happen, and I think that this would dramatically affect Michigan and Sharon Moore, is, well, first of all, you got to wonder if Moore will be able to keep his job if this goes through, because he could I mean, he could end up being suspended, kind of like Harbaugh, except for a longer time. But the other thing is, Michigan could have a postseason ban. What does this mean? Well, that would be detrimental to the program. That means that no matter what, you cannot go to the college football playoffs, even though you have the record, even though you may come in as the number one team with the top seed. If you get hit with this penalty and they take away your postseason play, you can't go. If you can't play, you can't receive money. You can't do anything. You have to sit it out. That would hurt the program because that would hurt recruits. That would hurt a lot of people because it's like, okay, well, I'm going to Michigan, but I can't even reap the fruits of my labor, even though I had nothing to do with this scandal with Connor Stallions. I had nothing to do with this. So that's one to keep watch on. The title being taken away retroactively, I don't see that happening. The sticking point that I would watch if I were, Big Ten fan, Michigan fan, or even one of the rivals, will the NCAA have the guts to say Michigan cannot go to the postseasons for a year or two? Now, you're seeing things that are happening throughout the different other conferences. Kentucky was the latest one. Kentucky got hit hard because they had players who allegedly were receiving improper benefits and had a job at a hospital, I believe, that they really weren't working. And Kentucky got hit with a ban like that. Would they do the same for Michigan, or is Michigan's brand just too big to fail? Like Michigan's brand is just, you have to have them there. That's the one thing that they have to hope, that they do have that type of cachet, that nothing will happen to them. Nothing can touch them because they are a brand, because they have the block in, because they are Michigan. So that's what you are hoping for if you are Michigan. But yeah, going back to Sharon Moore, the other thing that I think will hurt Sharon Moore is the fact that he deleted 50 plus messages, text messages between him and Connor Stallions when the news broke. Now, he has since then tried to cooperate with the NCAA, but that's only after the NCAA went back and found the text messages. So, yeah, look at it as you return the money that you robbed a bank, and you return the money only after they figured out where your address was and where you were keeping the money, and then you return the money. It doesn't absolve the fact that you still robbed a bank. I don't know if the text messages will be so salacious that you're like, wow, he really was complicit in doing this, but he deleted those messages. And okay, guys, let's just face it. Innocent people do not delete text messages. If you're going to cooperate, you're just going to show, hey, here's what we're talking about. We were talking about the weather. I was wishing him a happy birthday. I was asking him what time practice was. If it were those type of text messages, you do not delete them. He deleted them. The NCAA was able to recover them, and then he turned them over, and I guess hoping that they would show some type of leniency on him. So we're going to be waiting and seeing. Like I said, the official report has not come down yet, because once it does, Michigan has 90 days to dispute it, 90 days to accept it, or 90 days to just fight it and figure out what they're going to do next. Now, here's if you're Michigan, what you do not want to do. I don't think you want to take this to court. If you take this to court, then that means that the discovery process will take place. And that means that, man, you're going to be opening yourself. Think of it like an IRS audit. The NCAA gets to walk in there and look at everything that you have done. That is the worst thing to do, because they will discover some stuff that they may not have known yet. If you're Michigan, the last thing I would want to do is take this to court. I would fight this. I would try to get some type of a settlement. I would not want the NCAA poking around. Now, and it's not just a Michigan thing. I think any school, you do not want the NCAA poking around. For you average Joes out there, once again, think of it like this. You don't want the IRS to just start asking questions about your finances, because now you got to prove some stuff. Now they're going to go through every receipt and every claim that you have ever made in your life. You do not want this to happen. If you're Michigan, I would do my best to make sure it never reaches this point. Even if you have to accept the punishment you do not want to accept, because that's where more bad news could possibly potentially happen. Because I will say this, no school is squeaky clean. Every school does dirt. You just want to hide it better than others, plain and simple. So it then came out that Jim Harbaugh came out with a statement in which he basically said, he's, to paraphrase, he doesn't lie, cheat, or steal, and he's taught his family that, and that's family values. And if you make a mistake, you own up to it. And then he came out and said, I'm not apologizing for anything. I did not make a mistake. Well, this is where he's Jim Harbaugh, and it's the other thing too. 7 other coaches that were involved in all of this scandal are no longer at Michigan, whether they're in the NFL or they just moved on or they were fired. They're not there. Sharon Moore is still there, which means he could end up becoming the fall guy. But for Jim Harbaugh to make that statement, so disingenuous. Why is it disingenuous? Because it spits in the face of somebody that Harbaugh really, really respects. And I quote, every coach, every executive, every leader, they all know right from wrong, even those Enron guys. When someone uncovers a scandal in their company, I don't think they can say, I didn't know what was going on. They're just saying they're too dumb to do their job. And if they're really too dumb, then why are they getting paid millions of dollars to do it? They know what's going on. That was a quote from Jim Harbaugh's idol. That was Bo Schembechler talking about not knowing what's going on in your program. And for Jim to say, I'm not apologizing. Look, Jim, this all went on under your watch. So let's just play a game that even if you did not know, you're still the head guy. You were the head guy. You reap all the benefits. You got the hoisted trophy. You got to do all the stuff. You got to at least say, hey, this happened under my watch. Maybe I should have been a better leader. But to just sit there and so flippantly say, I ain't apologizing for nothing. See, that's the type of stuff that I think will piss off the NCAA, and that's where the penalties will get harder and harder and harder. So if I'm Jim, I wouldn't have made that statement, but did you really expect anything other than Jim to say that with his own arrogance? But yeah, Bo said, your hero, your idol, Bo said, then maybe, Jim, you're just too dumb to have that job. You got paid millions. You can't say you didn't know what was going on. The other thing that we finally figured out, and this was probably the worst kept secret since water is wet and boobs are fun. Connor Stalions was on the Central Michigan sideline when they played Michigan State. Yes, that was him in the Bobby Valentine outfit. That was him in the hat and the spy glasses. Yes, he was stealing things from Michigan State. Yes, Central Michigan did aid in doing this. And this is something where I think Central Michigan probably will get hit harder because they are not the brand. They're not the Block M. They're just the fast-moving C. They're going to get hit harder, and especially when the Central Michigan head coach is a former Michigan assistant. He said he didn't know what was going on. I would just cry BS. You did know what was going on. Your staffers knew what was going on. And yeah, here's the thing. I know somebody who was on the Central Michigan staff, and they told me a long time ago exactly what happened, how they passed the hat and the Central Michigan shirts through and the press pass through the gates on the north end of the end zone at Michigan State to Connor when he showed up, to make him look and appear as if he were a Central Michigan coach. How they put him on the sideline. They knew exactly what they were doing. Now, here's another question that I hear all the time, or a statement. Did Michigan need to scout Michigan State last year in order to beat them so badly? Absolutely not. Michigan State was hot garbage. You could have beat them without it, but the fact that you did Barry Bonds need to take steroids to hit home runs? Nope, he would have still been Barry Bonds. Did Lance Armstrong need to take enhancers in order to be Lance Armstrong? No, he still would have been the best cyclist in the world, but he chose to cheat instead. Michigan did the same thing. With Connor Stalions, you went out there, you were on the sideline, you got caught on camera, you cheated. Now, like I said, we know I think Central Michigan is going to get hit harder than Michigan. I think Central Michigan is going to really, they're going to face the punishment. And for both Central Michigan and Michigan, it really boils down to this. It's not the crime, it's the cover-up. The NCAA is not big on covering up. The NCAA is not big on lying to them. You can do anything that you want, and if you fess up to it, man, the NCAA does not want to punish teams. But the fact that neither school fessed up to it, I think that's why the NCAA is going to come after them. Now, the NCAA really, look, people say it's a toothless, powerless organization, and it might be. But here's the thing. If you really do nothing to Michigan but find them and let them kind of get a slap on the wrist, if I am every other program, I would simply come out with my new philosophy. I am going to cheat and cheat and cheat because nothing will happen to me. The risk won't outdo the rewards. If you catch me, I'll simply say, I'll deny it and say, well, it was somebody else. It was a lone wolf, a lone gunman, but I'm going to accept and reap all the benefits. That's what will happen. That's what I would do if I was running a team. And I look at what happened at Michigan and nothing happened to them. And they got a slap on the wrist and they got to win the Natty and they got to just dominate college football for 3 years. And you had to pay a fine. Man, I would put that as part of my new NIL package. I would talk to the boosters and tell them that we're about to cheat. We're about to cheat like nobody else's business. We're going to try to win a title. And then once we do, can you guys pay the fine to the NCAA? So the NCAA, the world is watching. The Big Ten is watching to see what you do next. It's going to be interesting to see. We'll have more updates on this as they happen. We'll start breaking down the Big Ten as the season gets ready to start in upcoming podcasts. But for right now, thanks for listening and watching. You've been watching the 5 Star Zone with Rico Beard. I'll be back soon. I'll see you then.